All right, today we're going to go through the iDrive-9 system. Now we're going to go through some of the features and functions of the system, using the system, governing settings and controls throughout the car. But we'll go ahead and get started here with this main menu, and then we'll traverse into our apps menu where everything's located in the car. So first we have our home button over here, which will always take us back to the screen. Then we have our climate control over here, navigation, media. This is our app screen, and then of course our mobile devices. Now the first place we're going to go is into our app screen, and then we're going to filter to vehicle over here. This is where everything in the car is centrally located. So essentially, if you can learn this menu, you'll learn the whole car. Now the first place we'll go is into our BMW ID. And if you don't already have one, this is where you would add your ID, in which case it'll prompt you to download the My BMW app. And then you can use your camera to scan the QR barcode it'll give you, and then the car will be able to connect you that way. Assuming that's already done, the next place we'll stop is at the personal assistant. Now this here is the car's version of learning you and what you do, where you like to go throughout the car, what you like to visit. The car will essentially learn a lot of the different areas that you usually spend in the car and serve those to you. And then there's other extensions to this as well. We can see over here we have talking to the car, which is like pressing the volume button on the or the microphone button on the steering wheel. Amazon Alexa's built in. There's other assistants as well, such as Siri and the Google Assistant from Android. So we'll come out of here. Then we have our ConnectedDrive Store. There's various things you can purchase on the car. If you want to add certain features and functions to the car that may not have come with the car, some of them can be added through this menu. You can also do it on your app. Now, the next one, this is going to be our first big one, is going to be the climate control. That's the same as pressing this button right down here. So as we can see right now, the climate control is on. We have automatic air recirculation enabled. We have a max AC button for a hot summer day in the summer. Auto on and off. Auto will govern what the climate control is doing based on the temperature criteria you've given it, driver and passenger. And it'll essentially select a fan speed based on the available temperature that the car can give you inside the car in contrast with the temperature outside the car. We can always lean our fan up or down with this menu. And then if we turn off auto, everything will be entirely for us to govern. So we can do that by moving over here to where the air is coming out, and then it essentially lets us control these manually. Fan speed, where the air is, as you can see. So we'll go back over to auto, we'll leave AC on, and then sync over here is helpful because if we turn sync on, everything we do on the driver's temperature will be reflected on the passenger side, as you can see. Now while we're in here, and we can see these from any menu, even if we're not in climate control, we'll always have our temperatures over here on the bottom. We can tap on those for the functions available. In this case, this car has ventilated seats, heated seats, and a heated steering wheel. And we have 3 levels of each of those, or we can just press and hold to turn them off. The same thing goes over here on the passenger side. So we'll exit those menus. That's our climate control. Going back over to apps and vehicle. Data privacy settings, you can govern these as well. If you turn everything off, there may be some functionality not available between the car and the app, but we like to give you control of everything that we're pulling from the car, which is really just to run the algorithms to be able to learn how you use your car. This helps with future product improvement. Coming out of here, displays. Now, in the case of this car, we do have a head-up display. You may or may not have that on your system, but we do have the cockpit brightness at night. I usually like to turn this down a little bit so it's not too bright when the headlights are on. We can always turn our display off outright. And then brightness of the control display over here, depending on the cockpit brightness. So you've got the whole thing or just the display, essentially. And then, of course, you have further system settings in here, which we're going to see in another menu redundantly, so we'll come to those in just a little bit. Back over to apps and displays. Head-up display projector. We can adjust the height of the projector, so assume you have it turned on. You can go higher or lower for your display projector. We can also rotate the projector, which will rock the image slightly to the left or right. This is for polarized sunglasses. Some sunglasses will work with this, others will not. It strongly depends on what type of sunglasses you have. And then, of course, the brightness of the display itself. Now, the head-up display will automatically govern its brightness, but the brightness can be permanently adjusted here. The automatic brightness is for driving into tunnels or coming out of a tunnel where the sun might be really bright. The brightness will compensate for that by going up or down automatically with a couple different sensors on the car. And finally, we have the instrument cluster over here, governing what we put in the head-up display or the instrument cluster. That is adjustable, right? So if we don't want too much information popping up in the HUD, we can come over here to the cluster and put that over here as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and leave that back where we found that. We have a couple of other options here. Converted speed to show essentially kph in the United States in addition to mph. Okay. And then the speed limit assistant we're going to run into later on anyway, so we're going to wait until we come back into that menu. You can see there's a lot of redundancy here. So done with displays, we're going to head over into doors and windows. Now the first is our lock menu, and this is one of the most important menus in the car. Unlock when approaching or lock when walking away, those are available individually. Now flash when locking and unlocking, these will be available. The car's running right now. These can be governed when the car's turned off. We can see that this option over here grayed out is unlock the driver's door only or all doors. Those are configurable, and that follows pressing the button on the key fob, or in this case, approaching and walking away, or putting your hand on the door handle, which doors are unlocking, the driver's door or all doors. We can have an unlock at the end of a trip. Essentially what this is doing is when we go to put the car in park, the doors will unlock in P. This is when you turn the vehicle off for locking and unlocking. Lock after a short amount of time. So this is essentially a 2-minute lock check. If you were to unlock the car from the outside and you did not get in the car, within 2 minutes it'll lock itself again. And of course you can have the engine shut off after you open the door. Anti-theft alarm can be deactivated once. That would just be coming into this menu for whatever reason you do not want the alarm on. You can come in here and turn it off, just institutionally. Now we're filming this inside the new 2025 X3, so we do have a tailgate option over here for adjusting the height of the tailgate. Any BMW with a hatch will have 5 different positions. And then of course we have the kick to open function, so opening and closing with the foot movement. That is a straight kick under the center line of the car with the key on you, so the car knows that you're you, and then the hatch will be able to open or close. Back out of this menu. Now next, this is an option on this particular car, the drive recorder. So we can set this up so that if the car is in an accident and the airbags deploy, the car will automatically record 40 to 60 seconds, depending on the model, onto the car's built-in hard drive, and then that media can later be exported. Finally, over here we have driving settings. So we'll start over here with driver assistance. And we've got some quick things that we can turn on and off from here: lane departure warning and hill descent control. But if we go in, this is essentially the entire menu. We'll start over here with safety and warnings. So forward collision mitigation is our first one. This is the car lightly applying the brakes and giving you an image of a vehicle in front of you. It'll also be on the head-up display projector if you have it. You'll get a ding, 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 and then the car will lightly start applying brakes in anticipation of you braking, of you coming over to the brakes to help stop the car. Early, of course, makes the most sense to leave that on early. Lane departure warning. So the way this is functioning is over 40 miles an hour. If you go to leave the lane without prefacing that exit with the turn signal input, then the car will start, in this case, it will pull on your steering wheel if you have your steering intervention turned on. Otherwise, you'll have a vibration from the steering wheel without steering intervention on. Expanded and dangerous traffic situations are essentially the sensitivity threshold. Dangerous is usually fine. Expanded can be a little bit sensitive. You can play around with this. Then we have blind spot detection over here. We usually leave these on. Steering intervention in this case is usually a good idea to leave on. This just makes us a little bit safer so that you don't go into another car if you go to make an aggressive lane change. Now, if traffic is approaching in the blind spot, when using your turn signal, this will be available over 15 miles an hour. Steering intervention does not kick in until you're over 40 miles an hour. You have an exit warning over here. If somebody is approaching the car, this is very good for bicyclists. You have a warning tone that will sound if somebody is on their way right next to the car, so that you don't open a door into that person. Fatigue alert. So if you're driving, presumably late at night, if you start to get a little lazy on the road, you start to weave in and out of lane a little bit, the car will pick up on this. The car will assume you're too tired to drive, and it will recommend you take a break, just to kind of alert you that it's picking up on the fact that you're being a little bit sloppy in the lane. Now we have our speed warnings over here. We can set a definitive speed so that at a certain speed, the car will tell us that we are going too fast. This is not an electronic speed limiter. This isn't mechanically limiting the car's top speed. This is just telling us that we're essentially going too fast at that speed. So we'll leave that off for now. Then we have a speed limit exceeded function over here. We can set an acoustic warning as well. Or when exceeding the speed limit, the car will let us know. If you tend to be a few miles over the limit, you can turn this off. Otherwise, turning this on will let you know if you are indeed speeding. And of course, we can reset everything to the factory settings right here. Okay, we'll come down to driving next. So again, speed limit assistant. This is a little bit more of the automatic speed detection function in the car. We can have the speed limits adjusted manually, or we can show the current limit here. The way this will work is we can turn on our limiting function over here so that the car will mechanically limit itself to a speed, in which case we can govern that limitation and how high over that posted speed in two different sections we're allowing ourselves to go. This is very good for inadvertent speeding. If you live in an area where it's very easy to break the speed limit, maybe not always apparent as to what the speed limit is in certain areas, then this is very helpful. We saw the speed limit exceeded menu. Route control over here, adjust speed automatically. This is helpful if you're approaching a corner very quickly. This is good for driving on mountainous roads or especially highways that might have turns that are a little bit sharper than usual. Distance control, this is our following distance. If we have the cruise control on, and we do have the function with the Driving Assistance Pro or Active Cruise Control, this is done in seconds. So close, medium, far is seconds of distance behind the vehicle in front of you, and they're usually divided up by a half a second, in which case it's going to be a half a second, a full second, and 1.5 seconds, respectively. And then of course we have our switch to cruise control option, which is really just a manual way of letting the car switch over to that option when we toggle those functions. Then we have assisted view. Assisted driving view is very helpful. This will show on our instrument cluster what the car's camera systems see, again, with the options of the car having the semi-autonomous driving modes. We believe this is very important to leave up here if you're going to use that mode, because it's important to see the road also the way the car sees the road, so that you can see what it sees. It'll paint various cars, motorcycles, and trucks into this image, usually up to 9 of them. And if you see those cars here, then this car sees those cars in front of you. Finally, we have hill descent control. This doesn't get used a lot, but the hill descent control function is here to keep the car at a certain speed, which can be governed over on the cruise control speed adjustment knob on the left spoke of the steering wheel. When going downhill, if you're going down a very steep hill, for example, and let's say you set this at 10 miles an hour, this will try and prevent the car from going over that speed as it's descending without you needing to put your foot on the brake. It's more of a smooth descent, and in the sense that it's controlled, you're not going to have a tendency to bump around on the brake as much in brake traction. We'll go through feedback real quick before we go into parking. Feedback of the steering wheel, we have illuminated elements on the wheeled medium. For vibration is the normal intensity, usually that's fine. Then we have our parking. So, sound when available, if we have our parking distance control system turned on, as we hunt down parking spaces, in which case we need to be below 22 miles an hour, usually 7 to 10 miles an hour is the sweet spot. This will alert us when it finds a parking space that's perpendicular or parallel that's available for us to park in. Show assistance information over here. This is giving us a little bit more info when we go to execute an automatic parking maneuver. When we get really good at this, we can turn that off if you don't need the added information. Emergency braking with PDC. This is backing up and someone in a shopping center walks behind the car. Could be a human being, could be something like a shopping cart. The car will slam on the brakes for us. Now, one thing to be said about this menu is if we turn this on and we have a driveway that has a slant as we go to back up, sometimes it'll see the road as a wall and it can inadvertently activate. If that's the case, you can always turn it off over here. And then we can expand that out to the sides of the car. As we can see the diagram here, we'll detect an object about to cross behind the car, but we'll stop before it gets in the path of the car. Automatic PDC activation. So if we get very, very close to a wall for pulling into a parking space, maybe in a garage, this will automatically turn on and bring up the camera system for us. And then finally, we have an adjustable volume for our parking distance control system. Drive off monitoring for strong acceleration. This is essentially if we're starting from a stop with a heavy foot. This will limit the car's acceleration. This could be neighborhood, this could be driving off in an area we're unfamiliar with. Usually that should be up to the driver, of course, but this is just an added layer of security. Then cross traffic warning. This is very good for cars, similar to backing up with automatic brake intervention. This is really designed for vehicles that might be adjacent to us, intersecting with us as they're driving. And then of course braking intervention for that function is turned on. Panorama view, this is showing that the GPS-based function is already turned on. This is when we save activation points, which is a point in space that we can have the car toggle the camera system for. And then, of course, the guidelines when reversing and the obstacle markers, those can be turned on and off if for any reason that is something you want to do. So we'll back out of these menus. That's driver assistance. Drivetrain and chassis, we can deactivate the engine automatic start-stop function. If we do, that has to be done every time the car is started. That is something that isn't allowed to be retained. And then, of course, we have our sounds. These are the digital sounds that accompany our engine. And then our drive-off support. This is really just to prevent wheel slip if we think we're pulling away from, for example, ice or heavy snow. Now, if we go into the drivetrain and the chassis, we can see an expansion of that menu over here. Parking brake, we can have the parking brake apply automatically as soon as we shut our engine off. Okay, displays. This is just going back into where we were before. This is another redundant menu of where we were previously. So that is our driving settings. Next we'll go through exterior lighting. Exterior lighting, we have our automatic high beams on or off. Auto headlights on, that's essentially where we leave that at all times. We have a manual low beam override. If for any reason the auto function was not working, we'd still have to be able to turn our headlights on, as we can see. And then of course we have off over here to shut our lights off entirely manually. Parking lights, we can turn on our parking markers. These are very heavily used in Europe for narrow aisles. Essentially, if we were parallel parking with a right-hand curb, we could light up just the left side of the car, which will stay on for an extended period of time with minimal battery drain, just to mark that the car is parked. Again, they don't get used very often. And of course we have the parking lights right here. These will be available if for any reason you do want to use them once the car is shut off. Then we've got our exterior lighting daytime driving lights. We can always turn the DRLs off if we want. The one-touch turn signal, if you press lightly on the turn signal, you'll get 3 flashes. You can change that to 1. Then we have our pathway lighting. We can use this function after we turn the car off to illuminate a given area in front of us. Now, the way this has worked is we would pull back on the high beams after turning the car off, and we would have a certain amount of time of high beam before they automatically turn off. Then, of course, we have our welcome and our goodbye messages and animations. These are also for the lights that glow and are accompanied by unlocking and locking the car, as well as the animation on the inside of the car. Interior lighting. Now, we can turn on all of our dome lights inside the car with the default buttons on the roof, but for any reason, if we want to turn them on from here, we can do the same. Light when opening door, that can be turned on and off from here. Ambient lighting, these are the various colors of the lights inside the car. As you can see, we've got a lot of different options over here for changing some of the colors of the lights inside the car. Our background light and our accent lights, we can crank those up if we want, make everything nice and bright. It's usually a very popular effect. We can reduce them for night driving so that everything isn't too bright. And then we have our lighting effects over here for our welcome lights, as we were talking about, entering the vehicle, similar to the exterior lighting menu, but this governs all of these lights when opening the door. Safety and warning lights over here. These are displayed by the lights on the doors. When opening the doors, those lights will go red. That's also good for quickly detecting which doors open for the passengers that may be in the car. And we also have a lighting animation when someone is calling. Cockpit brightness, of course, we can adjust that again. That is a redundant menu from where we were before. Keys, we were in here already in the locks menu. This is just an extension of that menu. We can add a key here. We can add our key card by placing our card in the center here and activating our key card function. Live vehicle. This is essentially all of our onboard info for the car being able to check on itself. We have our adaptive content over here for our distance control, essentially our trip meter. Further trip data is available over here. We can have these values reset, for example, anytime we refuel the car, to track our MPG. Vehicle status. This is all the service information of the car. Will let us know, it will let BMW know whenever it is close to needing service, so it isn't necessary to come into this menu. But if you want to check things like your tire pressure monitor, in this case we've got temperature and pressure available in this car, we can certainly check that from here. Terrain view, these are some of the gadgets of the cars. This shows us our pitch and heave indicators, as well as our above sea level altimeter over here. And then we can see what's going on with our xDrive function while the car's in motion. Of course, that's not really something we should be looking at while the car's moving, but these just make it a little bit more fun. Mobile devices are where we go to pair our phones. We can connect a new device here, then we go into Bluetooth of our phone. Then we'll pair this. When we go to click on this on our phone and then we follow the directions, the car will take us gradually through the Bluetooth pairing. If we ever have any issues in Bluetooth, we can simply come into here, delete the device off the phone, also delete the device off the car. So the car has been removed from the phone and the phone's been removed from the car, and then we can repair it over here. The My Modes function are the different driving modes on the car. And we'll have also, in most of these cars, a My Modes button down below in the center console. Our default drive mode is our personal mode. Then we can go into our sport mode, which is going to make everything a little bit louder, more visceral. Throttle sensitivity is going to go up. Our turbos are going to spool a little bit earlier as well. We'll come back into the My Modes menu. Then we have our efficient mode over here. This essentially is a 30% reduction of heated elements inside the car, like heated steering wheel and seats. This also drops AC performance down just a little bit so that we can get a little bit more fuel efficiency out of the car. Come back into the My Modes menu. We have our expressive mode over here. These are just different modes with different lights, different functions for these modes. If we come into this mode, the sunroof is now going to open, the lighting changes, and we've got kind of a gradually fading light show over here, as we can see. So we'll come back into here, and we have several more modes on top of this. We'll come back into personal, and then we'll come back into our apps over here. So that was my modes. We do have a built-in owner's manual on the car. This is very helpful because it'll be proprietary for this model. We can always store functions if we were on a profile to this drop down over here that stores favorites. Previous BMWs, this was the 1 through 8 buttons. We can store 4, and then it'll give us an additional 4. To store an item, we would just simply press and hold, and then we would add it to our shortcuts. And then if we were on a profile, we'd be able to see that in our shortcuts menu right over here at the top. Here's our parking menu. Now this is what we see when our cameras are on or if the car's in reverse. We can see our top-down view over here. We can go into our assist view looking just at the sensors over here. We have our panorama view. This is very helpful for pulling in or out of parking spaces where we cannot see around the vehicles. This is perfect over here. We can see if anybody's coming. Right now we wouldn't be able to see that from where we're sitting in the driver's seat. Now, if the car is in reverse and then you select this view, you'll see the reverse version of this camera. Again, that is if you have this function equipped in your car. Then of course we can go to the party favorite 3D view and move around this view just to look around the car. This is all scaled to accuracy just so we can check on our parking job. This isn't as useful while the car is moving. It's far easier just to go straight to the parking view and use this while the car is moving using our top-down view over here. We have a seat comfort menu. We're going to see this in most models where we can adjust the seats from here. This is also very helpful if we want to adjust the seat of the passenger side while we're in the driver's seat. We can also set our seat memory here as we can on the doors as well. System settings, these are essentially our core settings of everything inside the car. For example, we can go to automatic time zones, 24-hour format, languages and voice control have set additional settings over here. Rear occupant seat alert, we can turn that on and off. And we have a couple of other settings over here around our driver assistance, some map versioning. Now the vehicle status menu is another redundancy of the live vehicle menu where we already were before. And then finally we have our Wi-Fi over here for connecting to the car. Now this does not automatically mean that the car is sending out a Wi-Fi hotspot. This is simply connecting to the car's modem, which is also done with our devices. For example, Apple CarPlay uses the Wi-Fi modem of the car to talk to the car. Then we can come back out of this menu and back home. Now that is essentially everything in the car. Everything over here is going to be derivatives of what we've already seen. So we can scroll along this widget over here. We can also scroll horizontally, and we can leave these up here as needed. You're going to see a lot of these that are going to look familiar to you from what we just saw. And of course, tapping on them expands them, like this will expand into the radio. This is our navigation system. We can go into nav, or we can simply tap on the screen to access it. While we're in our navigation system, we've got a couple of other options that are going to pop up as well. We have our destination input, we have settings as well, things we can turn on and off like satellite images, spoken instructions can be turned on and off with automatic zoom, things to avoid. And again, that was inside our navigation menu just by tapping on nav or going to nav over here, either one, and then coming over to our settings menu. We can also come up here to change our view. We can see some other options over here where we just were. So we'll come back home. And then finally, we can swipe over here from the extreme right, and we can just go straight to the My Modes view if we want to leave that up there instead of the map or the map. Some models will have different options over here. Now any of these over here are a shortcut icons, so we can go straight into a driver profile by tapping on this, for example. That's sound for muting and unmuting our sound right over here. We've got our parking markers over here. We've got our notification center over here where the bell is. So we can go through these various settings, and we'll go back home. Now that is essentially the car. If you can learn those core functions, the rest of the car is going to come very easy. If we do go back to apps over here and we go to all, you can see that this is every app the car has. Most of everything we saw on here has already been explored. Some of these are third-party apps. For example, the weather option isn't really a vehicle function, but is a nice option to have. So that's going to cover all the core menus of the BMW iDrive-9 system. Hope you liked this video, and please contact us at BMW Fairfax if you have any additional questions. Thank you for watching.